Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Stumptown. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with kind of the main through line in this episode. Obviously, Dex learned from Jeremy last episode, like, there was something else going on with Benny's situation, his death. So she meets him with a major, and the major is like, yeah, the fact of the matter is the people that was supposed to be behind Benny's death, that the information you were given, apparently that didn't. Well, I don't know if they were saying like it didn't happen, but at the very least, it seems like it was more likely a situation of the way they were kind of phrasing it. It was just at the very least had nothing to do with what happened to Benny, suggesting it was some other group. But even it didn't make any sense to guess, because she's like, no, they would have nothing to do with that. Why would they do that? Why would they go after Benny? But he won't give her any information because it's it's a sealed file and everything. Like, it's supposed to be like top secret and stuff like that. But she's like, no, just give me more. But Jeremy's just kind of accepting it and being like, yeah, he told you what he can. Thank you for your time, Major. But obviously, it's like, because I get what Jeremy was trying to do. It's like Dex helped him, with, finding his new family and everything. So, like, obviously he feels like he owes her. It's like, okay, especially because he knows it's like, this is something you've been dealing with. You helped me with my whole complicated family history situation, finding out that I was adopted and my real family and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm going to help you with something that's basically been causing you trauma in this whole Benny situation. So he thought, like, giving her an answer to be like, it wasn't your fault. But the thing is, while giving her the answer to this one thing, you gave her 20 other questions to ask, because for her it's like, no, I need to know what's up. She wasn't able to get the answer she needed, so she even wanted to go to because she ended up talking to someone from Benny's unit. His name is TJ, because it was someone that he was always someone that kind of kept in touch, because obviously she got kicked out of the funeral by Sue Lin, but he was always the one that's kind of like not blaming her for Benny's death. So she goes to visit him and everything, and they start talking a little bit about the past, and he's like, yeah, I miss Benny every day. I try not to think about the war and the past and stuff like that, because I just start missing him. And she's like, yeah, I miss him too. And then she notices that there's a particular dagger he has, and she's like, oh, that's interesting. And he was like, yeah, I kind of got it. And he was kind of basically underselling it, making it seem like it wasn't nothing special. But she's like, you wouldn't just get that at just some like rundown place or whatever. It's like, and she's like, where else would I have gone? She's basically like, in the area you were looking into, maybe you stumbled across it in a burned down house or something, because basically their whole thing was the unit that they belonged to basically came in to basically reimburse people caught in the middle of things, kind of giving them money to kind of pay back. I think like when their neighborhoods or whatever get destroyed with like military action and stuff like that, I think that's basically what their unit kind of was responsible for. But at the same time, she looks at his house and everything, and for her it's like, it doesn't make any sense that you live in such a place. Even later on, looking at it into it, it's like his place is like $800,000. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So she's thinking like they were into something, and that's what got Benny killed. And she's asking Hoffman to help her. It's like, oh, see if you can like put some pressure on him, but it's not like legally, there's no legal standings that he can really like go at TJ about. So it was that type of situation. But she was like, at the very least, get the files pulled or something like that. But it's like, that's DOD, that's stuff like way above his pay grade, so he can't do it. So for Dex, it's kind of like, I get it, thanks for coming down and everything, but it's like, obviously Miles can't help her, so she decides to take things into her own hands. The fact of the matter is, she talks to Jeremy and asks him like, oh, what's his phone number? I want to give the Major my personal apologies firsthand. Like, you've given me the answers I need and stuff like that. And it's like, Dex isn't the type to quit, so there was more to that. So she ends up finding out where he's at. I think she ends up triangulating the place he's staying at. It's like a hotel or motel. Well, it's a hotel. And the fact of the matter is, she was waiting for him to leave. I was thinking like, oh, you're going to corner him in the elevator to kind of ask him questions. But it's like, no, why would you do that? Because like, he's just going to lie straight to your face again. So she breaks into his place, but can't, quite crack it, because it's like, there's passwords on the files and stuff like that. Because what's interesting, because immediately she puts in Benny's name, no files, no search results come up. She puts in TJ's name, no files come up. So it's like, okay, so what am I going to do about this? So the fact is, she like knocked some stuff over. I thought it was because like, the cleaner was going to come in and clean. So I thought that's what that was about. But it was like, oh no, like the fact of the matter is, she just like walked away. I was like, oh, walked right past the Major, but he didn't realize it. But the moment he comes in, he thinks someone broke into his place. So it's like, oh, oh, I was like, so he wouldn't think, like, I was wondering, like, okay, I get that, like, oh, that way, I was like, he thinks someone broke in, but like, where is that? Oh, you've bugged the place. So showing you, like, because obviously, like, I think this is, like, obviously, like, Dex always gives the cases her all, that's just who she is, but she's, like, I feel like she gives cases like 110, she's giving this 150, because it's a personal thing, because for her, she spent so many years blaming herself for Benny's death, and it's, oh, whoa, you're telling me Benny was the target on purpose? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, because, because I didn't torture that lady or give them permission to torture that lady, we didn't get the information in time and Benny suffered from COVID. It's like, no, it seems like he was killed on purpose. So we'll get to that soon enough, but like that guilt, like being in, like having to deal with that for the past, 12 years, she's been living with the fact that she thought she was the reason why she's the reason why Benny died. So, I mean, because she thought, like, well, he came over in the military and everything to get close to me and reunite with me and everything. She thought that was the whole plan. And we kind of learn later on why she thought that. But we'll get, like I said, get to that soon enough. But the fact is that, she overhears like the case file and stuff. Jeremy ultimately got super pissed the moment he found out like what she did, because he's like, I can't help you anymore. But it is a thing of like, you have to understand why, because it isn't just like this is over. She knows that there's more related to Benny's death. How can you basically tell her not to do what she's doing? I get it, the legal reasons why she shouldn't do it, but at the same time, on a personal level, it's like, this is someone she cares about. She's blamed herself for so many years thinking she was responsible. Like, I get it. Once again, Jeremy thought like he'd just give her the closure, realize, oh, it's not, but it's like, no, this is someone she cares about. It's like the moment she found out, wait, not only am I not responsible, there's more to this. I got to figure out why, because she's been blaming herself for the past 12 years, meaning that whoever's responsible, whatever the truth behind this is, has been going, unsolved for the past 12 years. Hey, what was also interesting too, because I thought was kind of neat, this is actually the first time we've ever actually full on saw Benny the entire series. It's like flashbacks showing like him and her actually meeting, because they go to the same, back when they first met and everything, they went to the same school and everything. So he recognized her from campus and stuff like that. She was trying to like get into I think it was like a club or something, but she had like a fake ID. But the fact of the matter is, we got little insights to that, them spending time together, him like, because of the acoustics of the place, they had to go to the top and they opened up one of the vents and they were able to hear the music and everything. From there, like sneaking into her house so that he could wash his clothes. There was that beautiful moment between her and like, because Ansel got to play a game and it's like, oh, congrats, dude. And one of the parents is getting pissed. Is like, oh, he should basically play with his own kind, which was like, how fucked up is that? I get it. It's like you want your kid to play the game and everything, but it's like, really? Really? That's an asshole thing to say. But and Dex is about to go like, wait, what the fuck you say about my brother? But then Benny showing you the difference between Benny and Dex. Dex is ready to punch a dude, but the fact is, Benny kind of resolves it being like, I get it. I mean, your son, I mean, he didn't get to play right. It's like, yeah, you think, look, he's great. He'll, have aspirations and, kind of get an opportunity to shine more, right? It's like, yeah, but he needs to practice and stuff. He's like, I totally get that. This is going to be like a blip in your son's life when the fact of the matter is he goes on a bigger and better games and stuff like that. But for Ansel, this moment right here means the world to him. So, your son's one moment versus something that would mean everything to Ansel, and the dad kind of understood it, and it's just like, good game, kid. It's like, I still was like, I'm still like giving him the middle finger, like, oh, you asshole. Like, I'm literally like that, but Dex obviously appreciated it. So I thought that was kind of a nice insight to kind of let us know like what was up with Benny. So that's all going down. Then another aspect to this episode, which is really interesting, is the fact is, because it all kind of, ultimately ties together. Well, there's also that, well, I'll go ahead and talk about it. It's the whole situation with Gray. Gray's dad's decided, like, oh, he's going to be in town because, like, his son, Gray's half-brother, has, like, a game or something in Seattle. So I was like, oh, I'll stop by, and, we'll talk and everything. And Gray was actually kind of looking forward to it. He was kind of reluctant at first, but it's like, no, I'm going to get, because it's like, oh, give you a chance to kind of build a relationship with your dad. And he was actually kind of looking forward to it, but at the same time, he was also nervous about it. So he was snapping at, Tuki and Ansel about like the decorations and stuff like that they were putting up, and then Tuki was about to go check on him, but Ansel was like, I wouldn't do that for you, and he was like, you're right. He spent enough time around the Gray to be like, yeah, don't, best leave him alone and everything like that, but explaining like, oh, he's nervous about his dad. It's like, so what, because at first he was like, oh, his dad's coming to visit. It's like, so what? It's like, he's nervous. And it's like, you can understand it. Him and his dad haven't had a relationship in 20 years, but then it's like, at the same time, he's looking like, my dad's not the same person, so maybe we can have an opportunity to have a relationship. Sad thing is, his dad doesn't show up. And for, whether because it maybe something legitimately did come up, but the thing is, he didn't let, Gray know ahead of time. It's kind of almost last minute, you kind of let him know. So that's kind of messed up. But maybe he was trying, but part of you worries, like, what if he ended up kind of like, it's probably a situation of like, he was ready to do it, but then like, he remembers like, I have no right to come into Gray's life. The fact is, I've been missing out of his life for 20 years. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Like, for Gray, what would have mattered? I'm thinking that's what happened. Maybe that's not the case. Hopefully it's not a situation that he start drinking again. He start like Gray's, stepbrother and not stepbrother, but his half brother and his brother's mom like won't have to kind of deal with what Gray had to deal with. Like, hopefully it doesn't turn into a nasty situation like that. Hopefully it is just like, oh, he got nervous or whatnot. But the thing is, Gray just wanted you to show up. You didn't have to have the perfect thing to say. You being there in general would have done. That's what I'm thinking, but we'll kind of, have to wait and see whether that ends up being the case or not. But that's what I kind of get an inkling of. And obviously, sadly, there's even that line later on from Gray when he's talking to Tookie. It's like, oh, how'd things go with your dad? And Gray's like, pretty much how I expected. Like, he was hopeful, and now for him, he's probably going to go like, yeah, there's no reason to ever be hopeful when it comes to my dad because it's just going to blow up in my face again, So there's that side of things. And I like that Ansel kind of represents that character who knows everything because it's like, oh, this is about your dad. It's like, well, how'd you know? It's like, Ansel overhears a lot of stuff and can kind of pieces a lot of stuff together. So, because Ansel can understand that too. I mean, his parents have been out of his life for years too. And, he was asking questions about them and everything prior to that. I'm surprised he didn't bring that up because that's why I felt he was going to take interest in it too. Because he knows he hasn't seen his parents in years, kind of very similar to Gray. So, different circumstances, yet kind of similar, so, but that could be something they potentially play with in the future. We'll kind of have to see. But another aspect to this whole thing is like Miles and Lee. Hoffman and Lee, just because I'm calling her by her, because I don't know whether her first name is it Kara or Kara, because of, it can be Kara, but obviously I'm also thinking Kara just because of Supergirl. But regardless, Lee and Hoffman are on, undercover mission because it's like basically there's a lady that's basically rolling gentlemen. It's basically like a swingers place of like, oh yeah, they like have fun and stuff like that. Things get complicated for Hoffman because, oh, lo and behold, who does he see there? Tukey's wife. And I'm like, I kind of had inklings of that because especially when they flash it back at like just the way he's like, oh, he's like, oh, you're super dressed up and everything. I was like, oh, please don't tell me it's like something gnarly like that. Especially because when Tukey talks about his wife, he's like super madly in love. It's like, oh, we've been together for so long and everything. And actually, Hoffman actually brings it up later on when he brings it up to Tukey. He's talking about a hypothetical of like, oh yeah, why would someone kind of do that? It's like, do you do anything scandalous? And he talks about the fact that him and his wife, they drink some stuff and then they go skinny dipping. And even at one point inviting Miles, and Miles was like, he's like, dude, I was kidding. No one needs to see us naked. But for him, he thought like, oh yeah, that's us spicing it up, our relationship and stuff like that. So he thought that was kind of enough. He's like, oh, you could tell there were kind of issues already. And he was like, maybe we should do that soon to kind of, spice things up, to kind of bridge the gap, we'll get to that soon enough. But Hoffman and Lee, interestingly enough, over the course of this case, we find out, interestingly enough, that they were both married at one point in time. For Lee, it was like 2 years, and for Hoffman, it was like 9 months. And there were points in a relationship that were like, yeah, this isn't the right move to make, but they went through it anyway. And it was just like for them, and they answered at the same time, it was like, yeah, it was just like no fun. And I look at you and I was like, you two definitely like each other. Because I thrown that out there earlier in the series, so I had this inkling, I was like, is it me or does it seem like Lee has a thing for Hoffman? It turns out she totally has. Like, it's just like always these looks and just the way she smiles towards him and everything, and just like the way he acts around her. Like, it definitely seemed like there was something there. They just weren't acting about it. I mean, to be fair, Hoffman was kind of dating Dex, but even then, like the way Lee would talk to him about like Dex and stuff like that, it was coming from a place of like, yo, I got your back, partner, while also being like, I like you, partner, type of situation. So it was always there, but obviously these past 2 episodes is like, it's real. I mean, it's always been pretty apparent, but now it's gotten even more like in your face apparent type of situation, Luckily they take down the lady who's robbing people. she drugs people, and then literally everyone at the club gets arrested, including Tookie's wife. That's a whole complicated mess. But then like one of the people that they get that arrest, Hoffman ends up talking to him. It turns out he's IT for the DOD, uses this as an opportunity to hook up Dex because he knows that Dex is looking for this situation. But the sad thing is, it's like, you could tell, like, because at the end, like, Hoffman had looked, when everyone's being arrested, he looked at Tookie's wife and she kind of saw him too. Because at first he was kind of trying to avoid her because it was like, oh. But when it was all said and done, Tookie comes to pick her up. And he's kind of mad at Hoffman for not saying anything. It's like, oh, I was the mark and everything. He was like, that's not the case. It's like, but for Hoffman, it's a thing of like, sometimes it's harder to tell friends the truth. And he was like, almost kind of like, not real. Like, Tookie's like, oh, really? Yeah. And goes back to calling him Hoffman instead of Miles. It's sad because, because I get it. Because even he was like, oh, I get it. But he didn't really. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, you don't want to be the one that, like, but it's like, we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be bros, right? And the fact is, you didn't tell me this was going down. It's like, no one wants to be that dude that's like, I don't want to be the reason your marriage blows up in your face like that. I mean, and the sad thing is too, his wife was kind of like, oh, it was one thing it didn't mean. It's like, that was like over the course of multiple nights. It's not like, oh, it's like not like it was a one-time thing. Besides, it wasn't even just that one dude. It was multiple people, right? I mean, like maybe it was just the one dude, but I was just kind of, maybe I wasn't paying enough attention like who she was spending time with, but I would have chalked it up to be like, oh, she was with different people, like trying to spice things up. And for her, she's like, oh, the fact is you rarely have any time for me. The fact of the matter is like, you're always cooking, you're always working on your project and stuff like that. So it's like, but what about me? And she's like, but it meant nothing to me and everything. And it's just like, you could tell how upset Tookie is because she's like, it didn't matter. It's over. We've been married for 20 years, she's trying to say. And Tookie just kind of gets up and walks away just because it's like, he didn't say anything. And it's just like, what can you say in those circumstances? The fact of the matter is, he was about to, like, for him, it's like, he's packing up the truck and Gray's like, what are you doing? He's like, the fact of the matter is, she's going to take half everything. She's going to take the truck. It's like, she's not going to take your truck. But for him, it's like, because they're going to, like, which to me insinuates, like, he is going to divorce her. Like, it wasn't just kind of like, oh, where are we going to stand with this? It's like, no, like, during the divorce, she will end up getting, like, half. I think it also depends on, like, the whole everything. But Gray ends up kind of calming him down. It's like, don't do anything crazy, because Gray talks about things like obviously using his situation with his dad and kind of applying it to Tookie. Like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, at the end of the day, despite everything, I still love her. He kind of blames himself, being like, oh, how kind of messed up is that? But at the end of the day, too, what was it that Gray was like, oh, she said she was sorry, but it's kind of like, oh, it's like, it's so interesting how, like, basically using his dad's situation too, as like they try to make it seem like it isn't their fault, like, they don't take responsibility for kind of what they did, so not recognizing the mistakes, not owning up to the mistakes that they made, type of situation. So it's saying that it's not on Tookie about what she did, it's not about you, it's about her, so luckily, despite the differences they had, like, during this, partnership and everything, Gray being there to kind of have Tookie's back during his circumstances, which once again, he's kind of going through a similar situation, different yet similar, with the whole situation with his dad. So there's an element to that. Obviously, at the same time, you have Dex getting that dude that Hoffman puts her in contact with, looking into this, because a conversation she has with Gray at first, it's like, yeah, they were up to something, because of the way the file was like categorized. It was kind of like, usually that means it's anything ranging from like what terrorist situation to murder. Like, there was something suspicious and criminal involved with Benny's situation, hence why the files are sealed the way they are. But then Gray was like, are you suggesting that Benny might have been corrupt? Which she's like, no, like maybe the rest of his people, but she's like, I know Benny. And it's like, did you really know him? We're talking about the same dude that broke up with you to satisfy his mom, got married, had a kid, but then kind of decided to leave them behind just to get back with you. So it's like, did you really know Benny? She's like, yeah, I did. And then, like, I told it out of order, but like obviously the Amsel story came up first, showing that like, oh, like what kind of person he was. He was a good, honorable dude, So there was that whole situation. Luckily, because obviously Dex is pacing back and forth and she's drinking, and so it turns into a situation of, Ansel coming there and being like, oh, is it about Benny? She's like, how did you know? It's like, he kind of pieces it together, showing you like that he recognizes what's going on with the people he cares about most, that being Gray and Dex. And so for him, he wants to be there for them to kind of be like, it's going, like, even saying like, Benny was a good guy and everything. And she's like, yeah, I'm just looking into this, trying to figure out why someone would say that he isn't. So it was just kind of nice. Once again, she's like, exactly what to say. It's like, I mean, that's what he does best. He kind of anchors, Dex, But at the same time, like, Dex ends up getting like the file from the dude, and it turns out, because she had thought about it, like, the day Benny died, like, he had contacted her and he was like, I got to tell you something. Because at first she was just kind of like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be the reason why a marriage breaks up. But he was like, I got to tell you something. I got to do it face to face. At the time, she just assumed, like, and that's what she's been rolling with, thinking like, he came all the way here because he was going to propose to me. Like, because I guess that was the whole reason why he probably signed up. But then, like, it became so much more for him. That might have been the reason why he signed up and everything. But then, like, he stumbled and got mixed up in something else. But Dex the entire time thought, like, oh, the reason why he was coming to see me and the reason why he ended up dying was because he was coming to see me to try and propose to me. And obviously that's a story I think she went to go tell Sulin, or either that's something Sulin had jumped to the conclusion of. And, obviously Benny's wife at the time, all that. But I think it was more so than anything, like, probably thinking to herself, because that was probably already something he had talked to her about. So she was thinking, like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be the reason why. He had probably already previously told her about it, that idea of, like, getting back together, but she didn't want to ruin everything with his family. She was already not accepted in the family anyway, and she knew this would just make things worse, So despite how much she felt about Benny and everything, she wasn't, going to get her heart broken all over again and just make matters worse, But upon looking at the files that were attached, she looks and sees that basically it's a screenshot of the Skype call between her and Benny, making it realize, like, they, like, captured that. So someone was watching that, and that kind of pieced it together in her mind, like, Benny was going to ride on the rest of his team, like his squad, like, he knew what they were up to, and he needed to turn to someone he could count on, and that one person being Dex. Part of me, and I brought this up last episode, I'm curious, does this have anything to do with, I'm blanking on his name now. Once again, it's the actor from last episode. He was, like, I brought him up. He's the one from 12 Monkeys. For Ricardo Diaz, in Arrow and stuff like that actor. Like, I'm blanking on his name. I saw it, and it's just like, now it's escaping me. But him, I kind of got a feeling like he was suspicious and he was up to some shady shit. I'm wondering, does he tie into this, or is that situation just kind of supposed to be the precursor, just making her think like everything with Benny was her fault? Maybe that's just a completely separate thing that will never tie into it. I think it will. I'm wondering, like, I doubt this will have anything to do with her parents. We'll kind of have to see, but I think that's probably just like her parents' situation. One thing, in kind of a separate thing. We'll see. But now for her, it's like, oh man, these 12 years she spent worrying about this. She calls up Hoffman, who had his moment with Lee. It's just kind of like, oh, them basically talking about, like, oh, why they shouldn't be together. Like, oh, everyone around, it's like, oh, he's a clean freak, she's not. The fact of the matter is, it's like, at my place, you see how messy my place is, you murder me, and then you have to, because of your idiosyncrasies, you would probably have to clean up the blood, like, very nicely after everything. And it's also like, Cosgrove, she would not be happy about it. We get both demoted to traffic. So it's like, yeah, good reasons why we shouldn't be together. And lo and behold, they start making out. It's like, yeah, go. I was like, go ahead, and there you go. But obviously Dex calls Hoffman about it. He's like, just hand over the files and, like, don't do anything crazy. And Dex does something crazy, and I'm like, oh. The moment she shows up at TJ's place, I'm like, he's dead. I was like, oh, please don't. She breaks in. I'm like, you're gonna break in. He's dead. You're gonna be the number one suspect. I was like, I know it, because it's like, what's up with you? You have a personal vendetta against him because of what you found out. You've been drinking, and it's like, oh, this is not going to end well. And she finds TJ's dead body. I'm like, I'm not surprised. The question then becomes like, well, how did he die? Not unless he wasn't dead, he had just got knocked out, because we see at the end of the episode her getting, chloroformed. So either, like, TJ's already dead and they're just going to plant the murder weapon on her. We ain't seen a gunshot wound or no blood, so I'm assuming either he was just already knocked out or they poisoned him. Because the moment she showed up, I was like, they've already killed him. Whoever is behind all of this is cleaning house, So because this is just one person that's a part of Beanie's unit. That, what about the rest of them and everything? So I mean, once again, this could still tie into Home Dude from last episode, who could have just been in charge of that whole operation. That's why he was probably pushing Dex, because he needed an excuse to kind of set things up in that. I don't know. Like I said, that might turn out to be separate, might not. What's interesting though is this episode didn't have, like, I was watching on TV, didn't have a preview to the next episode, which was interesting. That rarely happens. But I could be mistaken, but I believe next week's episode is the season finale, isn't it? Like I said, I could be super wrong, but I think it is, which, if it is, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this all plays out. Once again, it's not going to look good to Dex, because I think by the time she wakes up, TJ's going to be dead. She's going to have potentially the murder weapon in her hand, or at least cops are going to show up with her standing over the dead body. Or maybe they just straight up captured her. And I don't know. I think it's probably in their favor to just frame her rather than just kind of dealing with it themselves. Because obviously, like, this is something that's been buried for 12 years. And the moment she starts looking around is when everything kind of, because she was asking too many questions, so she was inquiring too much. So whoever it is, it's got to shut her up, keep secret about what they've been up to. So it's definitely, whether it's in season finale or not, which, like I said, I believe it is, I'm very, very interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.